I'm Judy Shaw for NYSE Floor Talk. Joining me today is Leah Barto. She is the Senior Director of Research at Endeavor Global. Leah, it is wonderful to have you here. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Judy. It's so nice to be here.
So let's start off by talking about Endeavor Global. What do you do?
I am the Senior Director of Research. Endeavor Global is a worldwide organization. We select and support high growth entrepreneurs around the world. We help them scale up and then pay it forward to future generations of founders.
So now you just launched a new study looking at the career paths of 200 of those entrepreneurs who are running billion-dollar-plus unicorn companies. Why did you set out to conduct this research?
With this research, we really wanted to uncover what exact steps that founders are taking prior to launching unicorn companies. We've seen at Endeavor how founders are scaling up and growing unicorn companies in emerging markets, but we've also seen how they take really varied paths to get there.
Okay, so tell me more about what you found. Is there a common career path that indicates that someone will be successful founding and scaling a startup?
With this study, we looked at 200 of the top valued unicorn founders, so not just from Endeavor's own sample. And what we found was that there's a lot of variation. There's no single road to success, but there were some patterns. So for instance, a lot of the founders in our sample had studied or worked abroad. They'd gained some sort of international perspective prior to launching a unicorn company. Another pattern we saw was that they gained entrepreneurial experience prior to launching a company. 80% of them had either worked for or founded another entrepreneurial company prior to their unicorn.
Leah, what were the differences between career pathways for founders of US-based unicorns versus those in Latin America, the Middle East, Africa, or Southeast Asia?
So in our study, we did compare 100 unicorn founders with companies in the US to 100 of founders in emerging markets. And what we found was some differences. So for instance, on the whole, emerging market founders were much more likely to have roles in marketing, business development, finance, or consulting. And on the other hand, unicorn founders in the United States were more likely to have product and engineering roles.
Okay, all right. So now finally, Leah, to reach unicorn status, a company needs to raise capital at a valuation greater than $1 billion. Tell me, how important is privilege or access to exclusive networks when it comes to founding a company?
You know, when we looked at the data, what we saw really surprised us. Only 1/3 of founders in our sample had studied at an elite university. And so they were actually attending lots of other types of universities. When we looked at the types of employers that they had, there were only a handful that had worked at Big 3 consulting or Big 5 tech companies or bulge bracket banks. On the whole, these elite universities and employers were really rare on the resumes of unicorn founders. So that suggests to us that they're actually building networks and accessing capital in other ways. We've seen in our previous research through Endeavor Insight, when we do network mapping, we understand how founders are connected to one another. And what we've seen actually is they're building networks with other successful founders. And that can be a really telltale sign of how they're going to scale. When they receive mentorship, angel investment, or other support from highly successful founders, they're actually more likely to scale and access that capital. We call this the multiplier effect. It's when founders are not only scaling their companies, but also paying it forward to the next generation.
All right. Well, Leah, this report sounds very interesting. Thanks for stopping by and joining me on Floor Talk.
Thanks, Judy.